Hello, my name is Rachel Weissman, and in this video, we're going to talk about the role of creativity and the role of constraints in relation to creativity, and how constraints can actually be your superpower and how it can unlock greater creativity. So a little bit of context for who I am if we don't know each other. My name is Rachel Weissman. I'm an artist, executive coach, intuitive guide, keynote speaker. My work and world really lives in the interconnections between art, design, creativity, leadership, technology, storytelling, communication, and spirituality, human flourishing, and consciousness. And yeah, so in a little bit of context on me as an artist and a designer, since this video is about creativity and constraints. And I do believe that this can be applied outside of the art and design context. But my experience as an artist and designer and as an executive coach, it really has helped shape this this frame that I feel called to share with you. So, in undergrad, I received a BFA, so to a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and so I spent a lot of my time in undergrad, which in this moment was about, I graduated about like 11 years ago. And so a lot of that time was spent drawing and painting, but I also took a number of psychology classes and informatics classes. So really living in the intersection of art and creating as well as understanding people and the role of which technology plays. I spent er, much of my career working in technology. So I led UX design at Google, working on Google Maps and search, and also worked at Salesforce, where I led design for one of their first AI products way back in 2016. I founded multiple startups, and yeah, and now I'm the hats that I shared earlier. So how I wanted to give that as like context of how I'm showing up in this moment and the way in which my experience affects what I will be sharing. So what I found is from a coaching perspective and from an artist perspective, how and from a founder perspective, so often, especially when people are in, we'll say, like earlier stages of maybe not having as much access to um, whatever it, maybe they might be more constrained with their resources. Um, Actually leaning on the constraints and seeing them as a blessing and as a gift. So, there's two kinds of constraints that I want to offer. One are constraints that are, we'll say, I don't say out of your control, but that are like actually limiting. So if you do have access to very limited resources, which will then force you to be scrappy in that specific context. And second, if you do have an abundance of resources, or if there's something that you're working on that it feels, um, yeah, quite limitless, the role that constraints, or you can even think of constraints as kind of like structure, um, the role that structure can have on allowing something new to flourish. And so the way in which I see this show up with folks quite often is, and it relates to growth, is often this narrative of, you can even put it in like the context of this is me being a creator creating this video. Oftentimes people feel that you need to have, I need to have the right equipment, I need to have the right studio, I need to have XYZ in order to get started. And you can apply this to really anything that you're working towards or working with. And the crux of the insight that I want to offer is how can you be completely honest with your own lived experiences, the resources that you have available, and or if the resources feel unlimited, how can you provide constraints that can allow the message that you are sharing with others to be more effective? So I forgot the exact example, but what's coming to mind is I remember someone in another video shared this example of this design studio that was based in Berlin. And they did they've done immensely well throughout their career, but the ethos of what they focused on with their design work was all around taking a very scrappy approach. And so even though their company grew immensely, they still stayed very core to this is our approach and intentionally provided constraints that allowed them to access even more creative solutions. So the insight that I want to leave you with that you can start to apply to your own life is think of a project that you are currently working on. Two things. What are the constraints that are real, that are, we'll say, out of your control? I don't want to say out of your control is the wrong frame, but what are the constraints that it is what it is and this is your current reality? Whether it be the number of people that you're working with or the current financial resources that you have or the time frame that you need to complete something by. And of course, all these pieces can be moved. But what are the current constraints that these are the structural pieces that I'm currently working with? These are the Lego blocks that I'm currently working with. All knowing sometimes you can buy more Lego blocks, you can remove more Lego blocks. So, one, what's the chessboard? What's the play? Two, two, what are the constraints that you can intentionally create that can allow you to access something that you never even thought would be possible? So I'll give a tactical example that's coming to mind that's like very, very, very simple. So I'm recording these videos and there was a story in my head for a bit of or it's this intersection of longing and desire, and I'll do this in other places, but it's present for me, so I wanted to share the longing and desire of recording these videos in more of a studio context, because I've recorded a few of my early videos just using my iPhone, but they took a long time to upload, and so I needed to shift a little. But this like longing of wanting it to be something else. And then when actually being fully honest with, okay, well, this is where where I currently am. These are my actual constraints. Given that I have a goal of completing X number of, in this context, videos by a certain time, where is the current chessboard? And then what are the constraints that I want to add? Is for me, it's more around time, and also the constraint that I'm experimenting with is at least in these videos currently, and it will change, is not having a script and simply allowing these ideas to naturally flow through. And so with this constraint that I added to myself of no script, It's putting this forcing function of allowing whatever the ideas come through to meet you, trusting whatever it is, and allowing the authentic nature of, then it creates a different kind of dynamic of a video that's a little less buttoned up, which provides a different quality to, instead of videos that I will do at another time that have a much more script and buttoned up kind of format, which has its own benefit. So what I want to leave you with is, think of something that you are working towards. Like I said, what are the actual lived constraints that you have? What are constraints that you can impose on yourself that can unlock what you're creating in an entirely new way, that can allow maybe what you create to be of maybe a little bit different, or allow your authentic nature to shine a little bit more, or meet what someone's actually looking for. Anyways, if you have any questions, if you have a totally different idea, maybe you didn't actually resonate with what I shared, I love it all. So please leave comments below. If you find value in these videos, please hit the subscribe button. And I hope that you have a beautiful and blessed day wherever you are in the world.